Am I the bad guy for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into the house that I bought? I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I just bought my first house. It has 3 bedrooms, a yard, and is just what I need right now. I'm single and have 2 dogs. My sister is 34, has 3 children, and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Lately, she's been talking about how such a tiny living space is not enough for the 4 of them. When she got to know about the house I had bought, she became very upset and told me I was being wasteful, as I'm single and don't have kids, and therefore don't need such a big space. I reminded her that what I do with my hard-earned money is none of her business. She went on to complain to our mother about how selfish I was being. Yesterday evening, I got a call from my mom telling me I should let my sister and her kids move into the house. My house. I told her that no one was going to live in the house that I paid for but me, and that extra space would be great for my dogs to play in. My mom also got very upset with me and told me I was being unreasonable, that my sister's kids are growing and need the space more than my dogs. I offered to help my sister out financially so she could rent a bigger place. My mom got my sister on the phone, who shot down the idea, telling me I needed to let her and her kids live in my house. When I refused again, she very generously suggested a compromise. I could live in the house with her and her kids and would not have to find somewhere else to live. She said this as if she were doing me a favor. I told her she had lost her mind and hung up. Am I the bad guy or is she? I know my sister is struggling financially, but this kind of entitlement is ridiculous. Am I the bad guy? Not the bad guy. Talk about entitled behavior. If your mother is so concerned with your sister having a place to live, why doesn't she buy your sister a house or let them move in with her? She made her life choices. You made yours. She cannot expect you now to pay for hers. You went above and beyond by offering her money to upgrade. She should not expect you to sacrifice your personal freedom so that she can benefit. Let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below, and her not and why. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Am I the bad guy for eating at the same restaurant as my husband's family? I've been married to my husband for 3 years. We dated for 2 years before that. I want to start this off by saying that he really is a good guy in other areas. My husband's parents, his 2 brothers, ages 38 and 40-ish, and his brother's girlfriends and fiancés have a tradition of going out to dinner once a month. I am invited about 50% of the time. I've talked to my husband's brother's fiancé, and she says she's invited every time. When I say I'm not invited, I mean that my husband tells me I'm going to the family dinner. It's probably best if you sit this one out. When I expressed that I wanted to come, he told me that it would be for the best if I didn't. It has caused several fights. About a week ago, my husband went to a family dinner that I wasn't invited to. I was very pissed. So earlier that day, I called and made a reservation at the restaurant they were going to. My husband left the house not knowing about my reservations, and I left 15 minutes after him. I ended up seated at a table where I couldn't see his family, so I got up as if I was going to the washroom and walked right past them. They were all there, including his brother's SOs. My husband looked completely shocked and asked me what I was doing there. I told him that I had just been dying for a steak, so I came and got one at the restaurant. My mother-in-law said it was very rude of me to interrupt their family dinner. I pointed out that I wasn't trying to join them. I was just going to the washroom. I told them to have a good meal, and I left. I went and finished my steak by myself. My husband was really pissed when he came home, and he told me that he couldn't believe how much of a I had been. I said that he was a for not inviting me to his dinners when his brother's SOs got to go. My husband said that the decision to invite was between him and his family, and I should respect it. So I wanted to ask if I am the am I? Not the bad guy. Divorce him as soon as possible. He and his entire family don't respect you. Take him for all he's worth, and make sure your divorce attorney knows what they have been doing to you. Oh, and we have an update from OP. Update: I left my husband. This week has been a bit crazy, but I feel like I made enough progress to justify an update. Here's what happened. Your comments gave me the confidence to confront my husband about why I wasn't invited, and I wouldn't settle for a cagey answer. So I asked him about it calmly, and he said something like, "Oh, it's just the family decision." So I said, "I'm your family though. I deserve to know why." He said some very vague stuff like, "Well, you just don't fit in as well as everyone else." And I asked him what he meant by that. He couldn't really explain it. I was thinking about how a lot of you were concerned about the racial dynamics of my relationship. Personally, I had never thought much about it. No one in his family has ever made a racist comment toward me or toward anyone else. But I wanted to cover my bases, so I asked my husband if I was excluded because I was half black. My husband said, and I quote, "No, it's not because of that. You know I don't care about that." The way he said it implied that someone cared. So I asked who cared. He said nobody. I asked if it was his mom who cared, and he hesitated and said maybe. After a long conversation of prodding him, here's the story I eventually got. His mom is not a fan of me. My race might factor into it, but he said it's also about my personality and my political beliefs, and the fact that we went to my parents' house on Christmas Day the first year we started dating. His mom told him that he should think about finding someone who, quote, suited him better, and she encouraged him to take some time away from me. She said the family dinners would be a great opportunity for him to be with his family, where he fit in. I was invited sometimes because the dinners weren't always an excuse to get away from me, but some of them were. I was obviously devastated after hearing that, but it also felt good to finally hear an explanation. I asked him if he thought he needed even more space from me. He didn't even have time to answer before I went into the bedroom and started packing some clothes. I've been staying at my sister's house for a few days now. I haven't contacted my husband. I'm giving him his space. We'll probably end up separating or getting a divorce, but right now it's too early to tell. This was so hard to type out, but everyone was so supportive, and I felt like I owed it to you all. Thank you again for your kindness. I'm so sorry it has come to this, but you are worth so much more than what he is giving you. He's not 100% in, and probably never will be. I'm so glad you are standing up for yourself. I ruined my stepmom's 50th birthday party, mostly out of spite. My stepmom was a nasty woman to grow up with. Mean, vindictive, and had an inferiority complex that she used to attack anyone who was doing well, especially those doing better than she was. My dad spent my childhood on the road, and Mom was in and out of inpatient facilities until she passed away. So a lot of my time was spent with her being my only available carer guardian. I won't bullshit and say I was perfect, but I wasn't bad. Good student, involved in community and school activities, and as soon as I could work, I got a job. My biggest issue was that I often took an attitude with her and her family, all of whom sucked to be near. These people have been in my life since I was 4, and I am now in my late 20s, and not one of them were ever supportive or kind. I had aspirations to go to school and be a psychologist, a teacher, a therapist, a veterinarian. Honestly, I think I just liked the structure school offered, and I wanted to continue with it after graduation. But as soon as I was handed my diploma, my stepmom handed me a notice to vacate the property. Less than a month later, I was gone. To be fair to him, my father did try to intervene and prevent the eviction since it was his home, but she was the main occupant in the house, and we were informed by a local cop that she could, in fact, remove me from the home and press trespassing charges if I ever came back. To this day, I think he was likely full of shit, but didn't want to deal with it. So I was 18, homeless, and supposed to start college a few months later, and I had chosen a local school and rejected better scholarships so I could stay home and save money on housing. I found a place with a man that became my best friend, and I did try to attend school, but honestly, it just didn't feel right anymore. Between full-time work, just to scrape by, and the mental health issues that arose in the aftermath, I couldn't continue and dropped out. My dad was unable to offer much support, and most of my family never cared to intervene since she had convinced the majority of them that I had chosen basically to go no contact with them. She would call and gloat about how hard the real world is, make snide comments about my dying mother, and in the same breath, offer sympathy and support if I came back home. At holiday dinners, she would tell everyone I was the first psychologist she'd ever seen working at McDonald's, and if I defended myself, I would be chastised for not taking a joke. It was humiliating, and after a few years I realized I could block her and she couldn't do shit about it. So I did. My life did turn around. I work as a pastry chef in a bakery I adore and would love to buy someday if the owner would let me when he retires. It's not a life I ever imagined for myself, but it's a good one that I share with my fiancé, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. In the past 2 years, I resumed contact with my dad, and consequently his wife again. He's still a doormat, and she's still a but she's not picking on a little girl anymore, and I bite back now. I've also managed to contact my mom's family, who had been estranged from her for decades before she died, and met people who could have truly loved me if they had known I existed. Dad's family are kept at arm's length, but I finally have a family that I can talk about when my friends are discussing holiday plans, and that's all I ever wanted. Doing what I do for a living, I always show off a bit at family gatherings, and I've often made custom cakes for relatives when asked. Boundaries have been established, and after a cousin who tried pushing them found herself without a cake on her son's birthday, they are respected. My stepmom hates my job. She hates that I'm happy, that I don't care if I'm a bit plump, that I'm engaged and she's not allowed near the wedding. She hates that I'm good at what I do, and try as she might, the only thing she can ever insult is the fondant, which, to be fair, I don't care for either. At my dad's birthday party last month, I baked a lovely 3-tier red velvet cake for him and provided numerous pastries as well as a cookie buffet. My boss is a godsend for letting me use his industrial kitchen to make it all day. On the day of, all stepmom could say was my cake tasted like a box mix, and that was it. 2 decades of abuse, and I was finally done trying. I spent days making everything I provided, all free of charge, and she compared my labor and knowledge to Betty Crocker. No shame to anyone who bakes or likes Betty, or any other boxed mix, but it's like comparing fast food to your own home cooking, and the fast food being preferred. A total slap in the face to the hours of labor and effort, and years spent honing and perfecting recipes. She asked me at the beginning of February to bake her cake for her 50th. No other details other than she didn't want red velvet, and it was for 100 people. I agreed. I stocked up on Duncan Hines and canned frosting, slapped the frosting on top of shitty sheet cakes a day before, and didn't bother decorating any of them. My stepmom was livid. I ruined her birthday, embarrassed her in front of her friends and family. How could I be so callous, etc.? I just told her she compared my cake at Dad's party to Betty Crocker, so she must prefer low-effort cakes. I left shortly after she started crying. Apparently, she had planned on Instagramming the party and had planned on my normal quality of care for my desserts. Dad didn't care. He just said it was best if I'm not around her for a bit and we meet up somewhere other than his house. I don't want to be near her again, and I hoped her family choked on that dry-ass cake. Wow, it's pretty funny. I hope your stepmother enjoyed her low-quality cake, because that's what she deserved. Your father is also a piece of work as well. for allowing her to mistreat you. Well done to you for raising yourself. And I always wanted to be an expert baker. Let me know what you would do if you're in this situation down below in the comments, and or not, and why. If you subscribe, remember to click the bell icon for notifications. To enjoy all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description of this video. See you in the next video.